In this video, we are going to build a chatbot from scratch using Python and Django. Python is a very fun language and Django is a framework based on Python which we are going to use today. Let's see how to create a chatbot using Python and Django. Let's get started. So in order to get started, I will create a Django project. So in order to create a Django project, you need Django installed. So you can simply say pip3 install Django, or you can also say pip install Django if you are on Windows. I am on a Mac, so I will type pip3 install Django and this will install Django on my machine. Now I can close this terminal and come to this folder. I will right click new terminal at folder, and you will have to kind of look up this command, or you can even memorize it like me, because I have been using Django since a very long time. So I have memorized this program. The command, it's called Django admin start project, and you can name your project. So I will name my project as Chatbot. This will create a new project called Chatbot inside this code playground directory. As you can see, a Chatbot directory has been created inside of code playground. Okay, so code playground is a folder, Chatbot is another Django project. There are some of the files which are automatically generated. Now what I will do is I will simply open my VS Code and drag this Chatbot inside of VS Code. So I will wait for some time, and as you can see, I have opened this directory inside VS Code. Chatbot, there are some of the files. There is a settings.py. This is my project folder. Now we can add some apps to the Django project. If you don't know how Django works, you can create a project and then you can add some apps to that project. I'll show you how to create or start an app. So I'll create an app called home. I'll say python manage.py, and I'll press enter to see all the commands that it supports. Since I'm on a Mac, I will say python 3 manage.py, and as you can see, python 3 manage.py shows me all the commands. Now what I'll do is I will simply say python manage.py start app. Start app is a command which will create a new app. I'll call my new app as home, and I will press enter. Now I am again and again forgetting to type python 3 instead of python. And as you can see, a directory called home has been created. This is an app. This is a Django app, and Chatbot is the name of my Django project. Django project folder contains a file called settings.py, which contains all the data regarding this project. If you don't know how Django works, that's totally fine. Feel free to follow along and you'll get a good hang of Django. Trust me. Now in order to start my server, I'll simply say python 3 manage.py run server, and this will start a new server. I will click on this and the install worked successfully. Congratulations. So congratulations, Django worked successfully. But we are not here to create just a Django basic app. We are here to create a chatbot app. Okay, now let me show you how to create some URL endpoints which will point to a Python function. If that doesn't make any sense, it will make sense in some time. I will go to this home folder. I will open URLs.py. As you can see, there is no URLs.py inside this folder, but inside my project folder, there is a file called URLs.py. I will copy the content of this file and I will create a file called URLs.py inside my home directory, which is my app directory. I will paste the content of URLs.py from chatbot directory to URLs.py of home directory. Home is the name of my Django app. And I will open views.py inside of my app. Home is the app, chatbot is the name of the project. Remember that. I'll create a function called home, and this is the format that we use, and we can return HTTP response. But before that, I will have to import HTTP response, and I'll say this works. Now I want my endpoint to be /chat. So what I will do is I will say whenever somebody comes to chatbot, you simply direct all the traffic to home's URLs.py. So what happens is when you type something in the URL bar, it is handed over to URLs.py of your project. Okay, for example, if I type 127.0.0.1:8000, which is the default port on which Django works, and if I say /chat, you'll see it says that I cannot find the chat endpoint. But I can fix this. How can I fix this? I can fix this by saying that whenever somebody comes on URLs.py of Chatbot, you direct him to URLs of home. So let me copy this one. And this means that whenever somebody comes to this URL, which is empty, you include all the URLs of the home app. I will have to import include. And what this line is doing is, this is simply saying whenever somebody comes to URLs.py of Chatbot, you hand over the control to homes URLs.py. Now I can do the magic here. Now I can say that whenever somebody comes to this page, I will remove this admin, and I will also import from views. I will import home, and I will write home here. And as you can see that whenever if I write chat here, and now if I reload this page, nothing happens. Let me see what went wrong. I think I made some mistakes. It says no module named views. I will say from home.views import home. And if I reload this page, now this works. Okay, so whenever I type localhost/chat, I have been taken to this views.py. Let me once again explain how this is working. Whenever you type something on the URL bar, the control of the URLs is handled by the project's URLs.py. What is the name of our project? It is Chatbot. So Chatbot's URLs.py will take control, and it will see whether the admin is matching or not. No, admin is not matching because it is /chat. Okay, it will come to the next one. Now since this is empty, it will say, okay, hand over the control to home.urls. Now we'll go to the home app, and we'll go to the URLs.py of our home app, and we'll see if this is matching. Yes, this is matching. The chat is matching. So we will go to home. What is home? Home is imported from home.views. So we'll go to homes views.py, and we'll find a home function there. You can even give it a name of chat, but in that case you will have to import chat from home, and you will have to use chat here. This is the name of the function. This is the name of the endpoint, and this is simply a name which you can give to your URLs. And if I reload this, it again works. Now there is a concept of templates in Django. Let me create another function here. I'll say chat API. This is chat API. And this is going to be the chat view. Okay, this will show us the chat page, but this will be simply an API which will return JSON response. Okay, let's see how all this will work. What I can do now is simply create a templates folder and add Index.html to this template folder, and I will put a boilerplate, and I'll say HTML works. That's it. Now instead of returning HTTP response, I will return render. I'll say request, and then I will simply write the name of the template. I'll say index.html. Okay, and I will also import render. I have already imported render, but this will not work. Let me show you. If I reload, I will get an error. How to solve this error? You will simply go to settings.py and register your app first. Just write the name of your app here. This tells your Django settings.py that home is an app, and treat this folder as an app, as a Django app. Okay. Then I will go to the templates directory. I'm not able to find it. Yes, templates is equal to, I will add the templates directory. I'll say there is a directory called templates here. Treat it as a template directory. Search for templates in that directory. Django will say, okay, so whenever you say render request index.html, I will look for this file inside that template directory. Now if I reload this page, you'll see that it works because this file is now located. These are the basics of Django, and you might think that this is very confusing, but it is not. Once you create 5-7 Django apps, you will get a hang of it, and you will start appreciating it. Okay. So moving forward, we'll start coding in index.html. Let me go to getbootstrap.com, and I will copy a navbar, maybe some example template. Let's see what is there for us inside getbootstrap.com. Let me go to CDN starter, and it takes me to GitHub, but I'm very lazy. I want to simply copy and paste. So let me copy this and let me paste it here. So I will paste it here and I will check whether Bootstrap is working or not. How do I check whether Bootstrap is working or not? I can check by simply looking at this font. The font is now a little bit fancy and this is Bootstrap's font. If you are familiar with how Bootstrap works, you know that this is Bootstrap's font and Bootstrap is working. Another way to see that Bootstrap is working is you can go to Navbar. Grab a Navbar, copy this and paste it somewhere here. I will paste my Navbar here and I will reload it and you can see the Navbar appears. Without including Bootstrap, your Navbar will not look like this. I will change this text to my chatbot, and I will also toggle word wrap just so that there is no horizontal scroll bar. And instead of saying Bootstrap demo, I will say my chatbot. I will say chatbot created using OpenAI API. I'm going to use OpenAI's API, so stay tuned for that. Chatbot created using OpenAI API. Awesome. Now the next step is going to be the removal of all this boilerplate code. Let me remove this UL. No, it has home. I don't want to remove it. I want to remove this LI though. All these LIs. Yes. If I reload, it looks like this. Now you can go ahead and create your about pages and you can add contact us page and whatnot. I'm not going to do all that. I'll say /home. Let me show you how you can handle this about page. So you'll come to your home app. You'll say that I have another page and it's called about. You'll say about, and chat about, and inside views.py you can create an about function and about.html maybe. Inside your templates folder you can create about.html and let me press tab. I'll say I am about. Let me see if about works. If I click on about, I am about. I can go back, but I don't want to create about because I want to create this application with just a single page which will show me all the charts. Okay, so our index.html is here. Now I want to create a heading, and before that I want to create a container, and I'll say welcome to chatbot, let's chat, or let me call it Julie. Welcome to Julie. Talk to Julie maybe. Board, talk to Julie. This is even more interesting. And I want to center it, so I'll add a class of text center and I'll add some margin, top bottom margin. I will say or rather let me, okay, margin is fine. Let me add margin of 3. Yes, this works. Board, talk to Julie, let's chat. Now let me add the chat here. I'll say div.chat and let me see if I can find chat box in Bootstrap. So there are a lot of examples online. You can find some good looking chat UIs online and you should be good. But for the sake of this video, let me see if I can find some easier way of doing things, because I want to integrate the OpenAI and I want to show you how things work, how backend works, instead of showing you how all this is working. So let me keep it as a plain text. I'll say chat is equal to chat and let me write like this: Harry, hey, how are you? And then Julie will say I am fine. Okay, let me see how this looks. Hey, how are you? Julie says I am fine. Let me give it a pre-tag so that it looks exactly like it is typed. So Harry says, hey, how are you? Julie says I am fine. And then Harry can type something and then Julie will respond. So let's do this. Let's create a text area, and I'm going to grab the text area from getbootstrap.com. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Comments. Let me paste it here, and instead of saying comments, I'll say reply. And let's see how this looks. Reload and says reply. And I want to put it inside inside the container. Yes, it is inside the container. So class is equal to chat form floating. Okay, it is looking fine. So I should be good. But again, let me see how things are working here. Right click, inspect. And this is the text area, form floating. This is the pre tag. Okay, why does pre have some margin or padding? But if I say padding 0, margin 0. Okay, so it is showing some spaces because I have some spaces here. I want to remove these spaces from here since I'm using a pre tag. So this should be good now. If I reload it, it looks like this, which is fine. Okay, and then at the bottom I'll say chat. Or there is another method which I can follow. I can give it mx4, mx8. Is there mx8 in Bootstrap? Let's find out. No, I guess there is no mx8 in Bootstrap. So I might want to stick to this previous method. Oops, I will do redo quite a few times. Redo, and redo. And redo again. Okay, so instead of doing that, I'll do this. Reload. Harry, hey, how are you? Julie, I am fine. And then Harry will say something and then Julie will reply. So instead of writing comments, I'll say type your response here. Okay, and then we can add a button. I'll see some button examples. I'll simply add a primary button or maybe a dark button. Let's see how this goes. Type your response here. So after form floating, I can have a button and reload this page. And I want to give some top bottom margin to this button. Okay, this looks good. Submit. Now the moment somebody clicks on this submit, I want to send an HTTP response to my chat API, and I want to see whether I get a response from OpenAI or not. So I'll go to OpenAI playground. Yes, I want to go to OpenAI playground, overview, login. Let me log in first. I will log in via Google and I want to go to OpenAI playground. So I'll click on playground and I will click on view code. I will copy this code and I will paste inside of my views.py because I want to use this OpenAI package and I want to use this code to get a response. So inside of chat API, I will type this response is equal to this, and I will have to install OpenAI package. Says no module named OpenAI, so pip install OpenAI. In fact, I meant to type pip3, so it will install OpenAI, and after that I will start my server. My server is started. I will add an OpenAI API key here. So let me grab my API key. I will revoke this API key, by the way, and you can also revoke your API key by clicking here. So I can revoke this API key. So I can create a new key, copy this key, press OK, and then I will revoke this by clicking on this delete button. But I'm not revoking it just yet because I want to use it in my project first. So I have entered my API key here, and now my target is to give it a prompt, and after I give it a prompt, I want to make sure that I return the response. So instead of HTTP response, I want to import JSON response. And let me see how to return JSON response and Django. So the JSON response transforms the data. Let me import this JSON response. Let me see how we can use JSON response. So I'm saying JSON response, and instead of HTTP response, I will simply give a JSON response and I'll say response. Let me try this out. Let me say response is equal to, and I'll say this and then colon that. And I want to make sure that this API works. Name it as chat API, and again I want to name this as chat API and import chat API as well. And if I say /API, I should get the API. Nothing happens. Not sure what's wrong. I think my app has stopped working. So it says cannot import name JSON response from Django.shortcuts. Okay, so I will say from Django import. JSON response is not there in Django.shortcuts. I think I will have to import it from Django.http. So it's not there in Django.shortcuts. JSON response. Okay, this works. Awesome. So now if I reload this, it should give me a JSON response. It says that is not defined. What's wrong? Okay, so I'll have to give it as a string, and let's wait for it. I'm expecting a JSON response from this API. Yes, so the JSON response is coming, which is a good news. Now I want to make sure that whenever I put a post request, I'll say if request.method equals to post, then what you want to do is you want to print request dot say prompt. Let's do this. I want to make sure that it is inside my if statement, and I want to return JSON response. So I'll open Postman. Postman, where are you? Postman. Okay. I want to check my chat API. I will say slash API. I want to go for a post request. I will send a post request and see what happens. I will remove this PRO and let's send this. Says connection refused at 3000. Okay, so the port is 8000. If I send, it says if you have configured your browser to disable cookies, please re-enable them. CSRF verification failed. Okay, so I will have to give a CSRF token. Alright, no problems. Let me directly write the code inside Index.html. I'm back to Index.html. I'll write a script tag, and I'll say let r is equal to fetch, and let me Google search fetch post request, and I want to make sure that this post request works. Post request. Okay, so this is a code for post request. Pretty long code, but yes, I can use it. So this is a code for post request format document. Okay, the document is formatted. Okay, now I want to simply add my local host :8000 /API, and I want to give prompt as 42. Now let's see if this works. If I reload this page and if I see failed to fetch, okay, I'll go to network to see what went wrong. So I think the error is the CSRF token. This is the payload. There is no response. What is the error? Let me see what the error is. There is no response whatsoever. HTTPS. Okay, I'll have to remove this HTTPS because I don't have a valid certificate. It again failed. No referrer, localhost :8000. Okay, request URL is localhost :8000. Not sure what is wrong here. I have saved it. Everything is good. HTTP instead of HTTPS. Okay, so it gives an error now, which is course error. In order to get rid of course error Django, I will supply a CSRF token. How to supply a CSRF token? You simply write CSRF token like this. I'll show you how CSRF token works in Django. So you simply say let CSRF is equal to CSRF token. You do something like this. CSRF underscore token. Yes, this is how it works. And let me also console.log CSRF to see if things are working. I will reload it. It says unexpected identifier hidden. Okay, so by writing CSRF token, this will actually appear. but I want the value of this input tag. Okay, so in order to get rid of this error, what I did is that I said CSRF token here. This will give an input tag, and then what will happen is I will use document.query selector, and I will say wherever input type is hidden, get the value of that input tag, and then I'm console logging this CSRF token here. Okay. Let me now go back and reload, and let me show you access to fetch this from this has been blocked. So instead of saying localhost, I'll have to say 127.0.0.1. And now if I reload, I should get something. So it says forbidden. /API is forbidden because you are not sending CSRF token. I will have to send a CSRF token. So let me see how to send CSRF token in Django. Send CSRF using fetch in Django, and Stack Overflow to the rescue. Let's see how CSRF middleware token can be sent. I'll say CSRF middleware token, and let me call this as CSRF middleware token. I think this should work. It again says forbidden. Let's see what went wrong this time. I'm sending the CSRF middleware token. Everything is looking good, but it says CSRF token is missing. Why does it say that CSRF token is missing? Data.append. I think I'm doing everything right. Let me copy this, right? Let me copy this code instead of this huge code base. I will comment this one out, and I will use this code because this is for Django. It says data.append, and I will say prompt. Let me call prompt as file. I'm going to change it anyway. And CSRF middleware token should be CSRF middleware token. So CSRF middleware token, and then /API, bodies data. Everything looks good. Am I console logging the response or not? I think I'm not console logging the response. So I'll say const fetch data is equal to ANFN, which is an arrow function. And I will fetch inside of this. This is an async function. Async function. I'll say let A is equal to await. Let A is equal to await this. And then let R is equal to await A.json. Then return R. Okay. And let me say fetch data and console.log response. I'll say response is equal to fetch data and console.log response. Let's see if things are working. It says not found. Not found. Why? /API is not found. 127.0.0.1:8000 not found. Let me see what is wrong. Okay, so we are fetching /API. I think I need to remove this trailing slash. Yes. Why is it giving me an error? So it says whiskey request object has no attribute prompt. Okay, so I'm making a mistake here. I cannot simply say request.prompt. I can say request.form, I guess. Yes, I think I can say request.form. But let's not print anything. Let's simply print the request and see what is being printed on the console. And let me reload this. There is no error here whatsoever. And it says whiskey request. Now I'll say get post parameters from whiskey request Django. This is how you can parse the whiskey request. So you can say request.post. Print request.post. Okay, so now if I reload, this is what I get. I got nothing actually. If I reload network API, okay, I'm getting a response, this, that. But why is nothing printed? Okay, so there is a query dict which is being printed. I can simply say request.post.prompt to get the prompt. Okay. Yes, this time I'll get a prompt. Query dict has no attribute prompt. I think I'll have to do something like this. This is not JavaScript, this is Python. So either you use .get on a dictionary or you simply type it out like this. Yes, so now I get a file. I should be getting a file printed somewhere. No file being printed. Why? I should get a file printed. Yes. Now I'm getting a prompt here. Now I can give this prompt to this code. I can give this prompt to this code, and I need not run this code all the time. I need not run this fetch data all the time. I need not do that. Rather, what I will do is I will add a click listener. I'll say button dot add event listener click and then ANFN, and I will say whenever somebody clicks the button, let me make it an async function. I will say await this, and the prompt should be document dot query selector hash prompt dot value. This should be the prompt. Prompt should be the value of this text area, or maybe prompt should be the inner text of pre. So I'll say class, or rather ID is equal to prompt. So whenever somebody clicks on this button, which is submit, and let me call it submit here as well. Whenever somebody clicks on this button, I want to make sure that the prompt is updated. So I will do document dot get element by ID, or rather simply prompt dot inner text is equal to prompt dot inner text plus, and I will add a \n, and I will say Harry said this. Harry said what? Harry said text area dot value. Where is the text area? The ID of this text area is floating text area, or let me call it type prompt. I will say type prompt dot value. Harry said this. Now tell me, what did Julie say? Okay, and this is my prompt. This is my updated prompt. And let me change this, and then response is equal to await fetch. Now I got a response from OpenAI API. I will say prompt dot inner text is equal to response. Okay, this is the response dot response. Okay, or let me simply say response, and let's try this out. Inside of views.py, I will make sure that if the request dot method is post, I'm doing all this. Otherwise I am returning, otherwise I am returning HTTP response, and I'll say bad request. Okay, I think this should work. Prompt is equal to prompt, and prompt is equal to this, is equal to this. Okay, I think this makes a lot of sense now. Response is not this, but rather response is this, and I'm going to print the response. Print response. Let's go. Let's reload, and it says response is not defined. Response is not defined. Where is response not defined? Okay, so there is a console.log response hanging somewhere. Okay, let me reload this now and see. It again says the response is not defined. Okay, it works now. If I say I am also fine, and if I submit, let me see if the API is working. Okay, so the API is working, and it gave me choices, usage, and all this JSON. So choices, finish, reason, length, and I want to make sure that it gives me something which I can use to autocomplete. Object is this, usage is this, text is this. Okay, Why is it not working? It seems to not work, but it says get local time choices. Let me see what is wrong. So I says completion dot create this. I gave it a prompt and I gave it all the parameters, but it didn't return anything. So the prompt which was received by this API was undefined. Why? We'll have to debug this. Why is prompt undefined? So prompt is dot inner text is equal to this, and then what is the prompt? Prompt is document dot query selector hash prompt dot. Okay, so I need to make it inner text instead of inner HTML. So let me reload it and say I am also fine, and let me click submit. And yes, now it is working. So Harry says how are you? Julie said I am fine. Then I also added something to okay, so it says prompt is not defined, so I'm making some mistake somewhere. pmt, I've written something prompt. Okay, so there is a typo somewhere. Prompt empty.inHTML is equal to response. Okay, so here is the typo. Yes, now if I reload and say I am also fine, then hey, how are you? Julie says I am fine. Okay, so I just submitted this form and received a response. That's great. How have you been lately? So Julie said this, then Harry will say this. Okay, but Harry already said something, so I don't know why it is not working. Let me try it out here. So what I want to do is, whenever I say prompt.innerText is equal to this, I want to say prompt.innerText is equal to prompt.innerText plus this. Okay, and let me try this, and it is not working. I don't know why. So if I say prompt.innerText is equal to this plus this plus this, prompt.innerText is an object. Why? OMPT.innerText is equal to is an object. Okay, let me reload this and see what is going on. Prompt.innerText is undefined. If I type something here, prompt.innerText is again undefined. But why? prompt. I think the ID is not set correctly, or there is some other mistake. So pre-id is equal to prompt. Prompt.innerText should give me something. Prompt.inner. How about inner HTML? Doesn't work either. Okay, so the thing is that prompt is a keyword in JavaScript, so I'll have to do something like this. Okay, you never want to name your variables as JavaScript keywords. Never do that. Okay, so instead of saying prompt.innerHTML, I will have to do this. Oops. And same for this one. Yes, now this should work. Let's try this. Fingers crossed. I am fine. I am also fine. Okay, let me submit this. So Harry says, okay, I don't know what's wrong here. Something went wrong here. So since this is returning response as choices, I will also use choices. So instead of saying response, I'll say response choices and 0 and 0. Okay, so response choices 0 and then text dot text, and this will give me Harry, that's great to hear. What have you been up to lately? Okay, awesome. And am I adding this to inner text? I should be adding this to inner text, not okay, so I can do plus equals to, I hope, I am also fine, and let me press submit. So Harry, I am also fine. Julie said something, and that's great. What have you been up to lately? There is some problem still. Let me see what the problem is. Okay, so one problem is that I'm again calling this as prompt. I should be calling it at document.getElementById prompt. Now let's try it again. I am also fine. Submit. So Harry said I am also fine. Then Julie will say something, and we have to see what Julie will say. So it is sending this as a request that Harry said, "Hey, how are you?" Julie said, "I am fine." Then Harry said something. What will Julie say? Okay, then Harry said something. What will Julie say? So Harry said something. What will Julie say? So this is not updating it in real time, maybe. And I want my prompt to be this. So let me create a variable. My prompt is equal to this. And this will be my prompt. And I will pass my prompt to this function. And I will say my prompt like this. My prompt. Okay. Now this should work. Let's reload it. Harry said, "Hi, I am also good. How is the weather?" Okay. And I will submit. My prompt is not defined. Okay, my prompt is not defined. What's wrong? Where is my prompt? My prompt is not defined. Okay. So let my prompt is equal to this, and document.gallery.id prompt.inner text is equal to my prompt, and then I'm passing my prompt to this function. Where is this function? Okay, so I need to pass this as well like this. So hi, how is the weather? So Harry asked, how is the weather? What will Julie say? Julie should say something. It again says my prompt is not defined. Another mistake which I'm making is I need to move this inside of the function because I want this to be computed after the button is clicked. Okay, let's see if everything works now. I will reload. I will say, hey, how is the weather? How is the weather? I will submit, and Julie says it's quite warm. Awesome. So Julie says the weather is quite warm. I think I'm adding a space before Julie, so I'll have to fix it. Where is Julie? Where are you, Julie? Julie. Okay, so I need to remove this space. Okay, so the chatbot is ready. Let's see. Let's talk to this chatbot. But I also want to ensure that after everything is done, after this function is done executing, I want to make sure that this prompt is empty. So I'll say document.getElementsById prompt.inner text is equal to blank. Okay. Or I think it's called type prompt. So I'll say type prompt. Dot value is equal to blank. Okay. Format document. Awesome. Let's reload. And let's say, hey, how is the weather? So it says it's sunny and pleasant today. Then I'll say, Julie, can we be friends? And then of course it would be nice to be friends. But what if you are not able to handle it? I'm sure I can handle it. We can always talk if something is not working out. And what if I ask you to buy me gifts? I'm sorry, I don't think that would be an appropriate request between friends. Awesome. Who is the president of India? The president of India is Shri Ramnath Kovind. And let me say, who was the first president of Mars? Let me try to confuse it. Let me try to confuse it. I don't know who the first president of Mars was. Okay. So what is the formula for gravitational force? Guys, this is really very powerful. M1 M2 divided by r square, where g is the gravitational constant and M1 and M2 are the masses of two objects, and r is the different distance between the two objects. Guys, this is scary. This is a scary chatbot. This can tell you anything. Give me some Python project ideas. Let me submit and see what Julie has to offer. Here are some Python project ideas. Build a website using Flask or Django. Build a computer vision application. Okay, you can do something like this. I'll tell you what. Now the thing is that it is not wrapping text and it is showing a scroll bar. Now you can always wrap it inside of a cool UI and you can take care of the design part yourself. But this is how this UI works. I can even ask it, give me a Python program to add two numbers. Now, if I do this with this UI, it will give me a single line thing, but I'll show you something. Okay, so it gave me a multi-line formatted stuff, which is great. So it gave me a Python program to add two numbers. Amazing, man, amazing. So this is kind of a ChatGPT clone. You can use OpenAI API for free because it is free. Now, when you create a new OpenAI account, what happens is you get $18 for free. And you can use these $18. I've used only $0.14. I can always play around with this beautiful Julie AI, which I'm calling as my chatbot. This is kind of a ChatGPT clone, and you can also tweak these parameters. And we have wrapped it beautifully inside of our app, which is amazing. This is amazing, man. I mean, I love it. I love it. This is amazing. And I hope that you loved it as well. You can always go to your account and go to API keys and revoke your API keys. I'm going to revoke this one because I know otherwise people will start using my API key. I don't want people to use my API key. And also I can create a new secret key and then delete this one. And no, let me revoke this one. I mean, I'll keep on revoking and creating new API keys. So don't even try to use my API keys. Okay. Now you can go to settings, usage, and you can play around with your OpenAI account. But I hope that you liked Julie. Julie is an amazing chatbot. The next step for you is going to be creation of a beautiful UI, because this UI is good enough, but it's not the best. And I want you to create a very nice UI for Julie. Second thing is that start playing around with these parameters: temperature, maximum tokens, top_p. Start researching what these parameters are doing. You can also use ChatGPT as your model, or maybe GPT-4 as your model. Try to tweak that as well. Try to change the model and also remove these unnecessarily console and print statements. Now the next steps for anyone trying to use this is going to be hosting. So I'll go to my Linode account to host this app. I'll say linode.com and I will log into my Linode account. I'll click on login and this will take me into my Linode account. I'll create a new Linode. I'll click on create, then I'll click on Linode and I will select region as Mumbai and Ubuntu 22 as my operating system. You can use any distribution of your liking. I'll choose dedicated 32 GB and then I think we are good. I'll create the Linode, but I think I made a mistake. I need to give it a password also. Let me simply use this as the password and create Linode. This will provision a new machine for me, and in the meantime I'll go to my object storage, zip this code. I will zip this code, this chatbot. I will zip it and compress to compress, and I'll say my chat.zip. This is the code, but you do not have any buckets. You can cancel object storage. Okay, I don't want to cancel object storage. I will say code, select a region, maybe Singapore or maybe New York, create bucket. Okay, code Harry. Yes. And I'll use this as my Google Drive or my GitHub or whatever you want to say. This will upload this code. I will click on this and make it public read, copy, and I will copy this, and after copying I will simply host it inside this machine. So this machine is booting up. I will launch Lish console. I will wait for this machine to boot and I'll be back. So I copied this SSH root at this and I pasted my password. Now I am inside my machine. The next step for me is to pull this code. I will copy this and I will say apt update and then apt install unzip. I will install unzip, apt install unzip after this. I'm waiting for it to finish. Apt install unzip. Okay, and now I will unzip. I think the name was my chat, if I'm not wrong. Unzip my chat.zip. Okay, let me do wget first. I need to download this first. And it says forbidden. Why? Okay, it is private. Why is it private? I changed it to public read. Yeah, so now anyone can access it. Yes, it is downloaded. Now I can unzip this. I'll do ls. I will say Python python 3 manage.py run server. Now it says cannot import Django. I'll say pip3 install Django, apt install python 3 pip, python 3 pip, and then I should be able to import Django and launch my app. Now let me tell you something. This method of hosting the app only works for development environments. Okay, if you want to host your app to Linode and see how it works, you can run this, but again it is not recommended to use non-WSGI servers. Okay, it says couldn't import Django, make sure it's installed and available on your Python path variable. Did I say pip3 install Django? Okay, I haven't installed Django yet, it seems. Now I just installed Django, so this should work. It says no module named OpenAI. pip3 install OpenAI. Yes, it works. And now I can say python manage.py run server and it works. Okay, but the problem is that it works on 127.0.0.1 and I want to make Django work on make Django run on 0.0.0.0. How do we do that? We need to change the host. And how do we change the host? I think there is a command. You can always change the host, but how do we change the host? Okay, so there is a question run server. Okay, so we can do something like this. We can say python manage.py run server, then 0.0.0.0 colon 8000. This will run it on 0.0.0 colon 8000. But in order to access this, we will have to go to this API and we will have to type colon 8000. And it says that invalid host header. Now this problem will occur if you are using this as a header. You will have to go to your settings.py. Let me show you. I'll say cd and the name of the app was Chatbot. Then vim settings.py. You will have to add this to your allowed host. I will press I and I will add this to allowed host. Okay, so it says cannot open. Okay, I need to go back cd // and yes, this should work now. So I've added this to allowed host. You need to add this to allowed host. Okay, so I added port as well, my bad. No need to add port to allowed host. So I'll say vim chatbot settings.py and I will remove this port simply. Escape colon WQ and I will start my server, reload, and yes, it works. Okay, I can go to /chat and yes, it works. Now this chatbot will not work because I've revoked my OpenAI API, but I hope you liked this video and you were able to host it to Linode. Thank you so much guys for watching this video and I will see you next time.